let's address the elephant in the room. Schrodinger's cat is not a real experiment. It's actually never used in any scientific theory or study or research. And somehow, people love to claim that it tells us something. It tells us something supposedly huge about our role as observers, conscious observers, shaping the way our world works. But is it really?
It was simply a teaching tool that Schrodinger used to illustrate how some people were misinterpreting quantum physics and quantum theory, and even used it to mock them. Schrodinger constructed his imaginary experiment with the cat to demonstrate that simple misinterpretations of quantum theory can lead to absurd results in real life. And unfortunately, many popularizers of science in our day have embraced this absurdity and even claim that this is how our real world works. But as history shows, and if you read a bit into history, you notice that this is exactly the opposite of what Schrodinger has thought in mind. If the world truly worked like that, for one, it would be quite concerning to see dead and alive cats at the same time, and for two, quantum physics would be a unifying universal theory, which isn't the case. There's clearly still a divide between relativistic mechanics and quantum mechanics. And this is entirely normal, Scientific progress is a continuous process, and we do not arrive at complete answers from the first try. In fact, a couple of 100 years ago, we thought that the air was made of ether and that waves kind of traveled through that, gravitational waves, and light traveled through this ether. And look at us now. We're building quantum hardware, and we're discovering faraway galaxies that do not exist now. They've been long gone, and we're detecting unimaginably tiny particles, and we're imaging black holes, and we're pushing the boundaries of physics in manners that we just weren't able to imagine a couple of decades ago. Science isn't about being right from the first try. It's about constantly challenging these ideas that we have and these intuitions, and refining our ideas and scrapping them and finding better questions to ask and finding answers suitable to those questions, and just finding better predictions of how our universe works. And isn't that exciting? That there's always something to learn more about, and there's always something to look more into everywhere. As is known, in quantum theory, quantum particles can exist in a superposition of states, being multiple states at the same time, and they collapse into a single state upon interaction with other matter. You can read more about this in a video I'll link in the description. Some scientists at the time that quantum theory has been developed back in the 1930s have drifted from physics into the realm of philosophy and have stated that quantum particles can only collapse to a single state via the observer effect, or the conscious observer effect. Schrodinger found this concept very concerning and absurd. Therefore, he devised his thought experiment to make it clear how absurd and illogical such claims can be. In Schrodinger's imaginary experiment, you place a cat in a box, a tiny bit of radioactive substance, and when the radioactive substance decays, that triggers a Geiger counter, which indicates a poison or an explosion has been done, right? Now, the decay of the radioactive substance is governed by quantum laws, meaning that it's completely random, and that the atoms start in a combined state of going to decay and not going to decay at the same time. And if we apply the observer-driven idea to this, there is no conscious observer present. Everything is sealed within the box. So the whole system stays in a combination of two possibilities until we, the observers, just come in. And the cat, being inside of this box, stays in a position of being alive and dead until we see it. Einstein saw the same problem that Schrodinger saw, and said This interpretation, however, refuted most elegantly by your system, referring to Schrodinger obviously, in which the psi function of the system contains the cat being both alive and blown to bits. Is the state of the cat to be created only when a physicist investigates this situation, or at some definite time? Since that time, there has been ample evidence that wave function collapse is not driven by a conscious observer. In fact, every interaction a quantum particle makes can collapse its state. It is extremely misleading to claim that a conscious observer collapses the superposition. Photons do, quantum particles do, not consciousness. Anything close to that, not anything close to that pseudoscience. Careful analysis reveals that the Schrodinger cat experiment would play out in real world as the following. As soon as the radioactive atom interacts with the Geiger counter, it collapses it from a non-decayed state into one definite state, and the Geiger counter definitely triggers, and the cat gets definitely killed or not definitely killed. So, let me repeat that. The Geiger counter gets definitely triggered, and the cat definitely dies, or the Geiger counter does not definitely trigger, and the cat definitely stays alive. You see the difference? There is some certainty in the claim. But both at the same time is something that doesn't happen in the real world. Unfortunately, many popular scientists and science writers actually, back then and even today, continue to propagate this misconception about quantum mechanics, and it paints quantum mechanics in this mystical light that just opens doors for pseudoscience to hop in, if you know what I mean. Pseudoscientists use these erroneous claims as a springboard into unsubstantiated and non-scientific discussions about the nature of our reality, about our consciousness, and even Eastern mysticism and many kinds of pseudoscience. And to them, Schrodinger's cat is not embarrassing. To them, it's reality. It's not wrong, but a proof that the world is as absurd as they claim. Such authors either misunderstand Schrodinger's cat or purposely twist it to sell books, to misguide the general public, or to promote quantum mysticism and to sell more products, or something just as trivial. So be careful. Do your research. It's fun. Bye.